Hey guys, welcome back to another video, wherever in the Caribbean or in the diaspora you're watching from. So I've been getting a lot of requests recently. People are asking, what is my opinion about if you live in the Caribbean and you're thinking about relocating to North America for a better life. You live in St. Vincent, you live in Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, wherever, and you're thinking, you know what? For whatever reason, I want to try somewhere in North America. I want to go to Canada. I want to go anywhere in the US. What is my advice for people who are thinking that, look, I want to leave the Caribbean and I want to try for a better life in North America? And so people have been asking me advice. Do I think it's a good idea to leave the Caribbean at this time, especially with what is going on in the US with Donald Trump, is it a good time to leave the Caribbean, relocate, and live whether in the US or in Canada? So I figure, you know what? I would not want to tell anyone, like, okay, do not leave the Caribbean and come to North America. So what I figure I would do in this video, I'm going to give you the pros and the cons of living in North America. So that can help you to make a decision whether or not you want to, leave the warm comfort of the Caribbean, the nice beaches, the sun, and all of that, and come to North America. So, it is obvious. I'm going to go with the cons first. So, it is obvious, the first one. As you can see, like I'm doing it outside, I'm in the snow. Today is actually what we call a snow day. So, most people are not at work today because we receive um, 25 centimeters of snow last night within to this morning. So, most people are not at work today. Most of the schools are closed. This doesn't happen very often. This is like the second one in the past about 2 or 3 years where like pretty much everything is shut down. So it's not something that happened regular. So this is one of the first cons. You're leaving the Caribbean where it's summer right throughout the year, warm weather. You don't have to worry about coming outside and, shoveling snow and all of that. So that is the first con, I would say, leaving the warmth of the Caribbean to come to North America and to go somewhere where it's like snowing. And even though not everywhere in North America, there are places like, there Florida, and there are a lot of places in America. There are places in Canada like Vancouver where it doesn't get as cold. But one of the things that people have to know is that when you relocate to one of those tropical states, whether it is in America, as I said, Florida is the biggest one where a lot of people move to from the Caribbean because it's a similar climate. But one of the things with places like Florida and other places that have warmer tropical climate is that you are competing, the jobs that you're competing for, you're competing with more people, you're competing with people from different countries, from different culture. In particular, like in Florida, you're competing with a lot of Latinos, and you're competing with people that will do a better job than you could ever do for half the money that you are expected to take, right? So they'll work faster than you for less for less money. So it is very competitive out there. So if you're thinking to move to one of those warmer states or province, that is one of the main thing that you will come across. And also in those warmer places, the rent and mortgage very high. So even if you move there and you have a decent job, you're paying more for rent, you're paying more for mortgage in those warmer states. So that's another con. Another con is that what I've realized too, the minimum wage in a lot of those states carry lower minimum wage. So the minimum that you would make, that you work for in those states, they are less than some of the other states, like Maryland and New York. Some of those states will have a higher minimum wage, but they are colder. Some of the warmer states, minimum wage is very, very low. Even though I don't think it would be a wise idea, I would encourage anyone to leave the Caribbean and to go to North America to work for minimum wage. It doesn't make sense. Like when I come across people from the Caribbean, one of the things that I've always said that I'd rather to be poor in the Caribbean than to be poor in North America. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to work for minimum wage in North America. It doesn't make sense to be like jumping on the bus and to be doing all of those stuff. If you're leaving the Caribbean and you're coming to North America, you have to try and be in the middle class or the upper class, or else it's just a waste of time. Better to stay in the Caribbean poor than to come to North America and to be poor. So what else? Another thing is that, yeah, in a lot of those warmer cities across America, warmer states, it's diversity. That is one of the pros. So let's go to pros now. Diversity. Like if you live in places like Florida, and New York is very diverse, even though like it gets cold also. But diversity is a big thing. Like you will go to Florida and there's like a ton of Jamaican restaurant. There are like Haitian restaurant, Guyanese restaurant, Trinidadian restaurant. So a lot of those states, you live in those states, and sometimes you get homesick, but you don't have to worry because you can go up the street and you can get some beef patty. You can go up the street, you can get some doubles. You can get some, curry goat roti or goat curry roti, whatever you call it, whether you're from, Trinidad or Guyana. So that is one of the big pro when you go to some of those places that are not too cold. That is one of the pro. As opposed to like when you go to some of the colder places, like for example, like in Canada, like in Ontario, like Toronto. Toronto is one of the warmest, apart from Vancouver, Toronto is one of the warmest province. Ontario is one of the warmest province. Toronto is one of the warmest city in Canada. But when you go places like Calgary and stuff like that, finding a Jamaican restaurant, finding a Guyanese restaurant is almost close to impossible. Like you'll find people that they'll add it to their menu, but it's not the same. You'll go into restaurants that will try to give you jerk chicken or try to do this, but it's just not the same. So that is one of the cons with living in some of those colder places. You make a lot more money. As I said, like especially in Canada, you move to Calgary and some of those places, you make a lot more money than you would make in places like Toronto. But the lack of diversity is one of those things. And one other thing, whether you're going to, whether it's a warm or cold state or province, one of the things that is different in North America today, as opposed to, I would say, 20 years ago. If you come to North America, anywhere, whether it's in Canada, in the United States of America, if you come to North America and you're single, you're going to have a hard time. Trust me, you are going to have a hard time. I think if you're married, a married couple, and you move to North America and you're working to build something together, it's easy to buy a house, it's easy to take care of the bills and stuff like that. And I guess that's the same way anywhere, right? In the Caribbean, if you're married and you're working together, it is easy. But what I've observed in North America, people that are doing well, people that move from the Caribbean that are able to climb into the middle class, are people that are married. So keep that in mind. If you're single and you're trying to come to North America, you're going to have a hard time, because in 2025, to rent an apartment, and I'm talking about the apartments in North America, in Toronto, in New York, is almost like, the bathroom and the kitchen is almost in the same space. That's how small it is in some of these apartments. And you're paying upwards of like $3,000-$4,000 a month for rent. Whether it's in New York, you're paying $3,000 US for an apartment that you can't even play hopscotch in there. You jump from one point to the next. It is so small. So just keep that in mind. And the same thing in Toronto. If you try to rent an apartment downtown Toronto, you're going to be paying upwards of um $3,000 a month. And as I said, that's upwards. That's like minimum. And I'm not even talking about a one bedroom. That is more like a studio where everything is in the same space. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about moving to North America. Okay, so another thing that I get asked a lot is about racism. Um, what is my experience living in North America with racism? So I live in Canada. I live in Ontario, in Toronto, and I'm sure it would be like a different experience from, say, living in New York or living in Maryland or some other parts of the United States of America. But based on my experience, I blatant racism I've not experienced. Like no one has ever, look at me and say the N word or anything like that. But what I can say is that systemic racism is something that you can feel. I'm not the type of person that would jump to say everything or everyone is racist or point out everything as racism. But one of the reality is that systemic racism is something that you can feel. When you go for a job. Like for example, about 14 years ago, as someone that worked in the hospitality for a long time, came with a lot of experience. And the reality is that when I go into an interview, to interview for a job, there's not much people that can come in with more experience than I'm coming in with, because I have a ton of experience. At that time, I've worked in the industry for a long time. I have a lot of experience, international experience in Jamaica, like, some of the top experience. Like I've, you know, done royal events 3 times, served the Queen twice. So I came with a lot of experience. And when I went for interview, like it was 14 years ago, that was the first time I've ever been into an interview where the person that did the interview said like, look, you have too much experience for this job. And that was a managerial job. And I'm looking at this person, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I'm just coming to Canada, like I'm willing to start at any point, but this is a managerial job. This is the type of money that I want to be making right now. And you're going to tell me that I have too much experience for this job. So, and that was the first time I realized that, yes, systemic racism is something that you will experience. But the thing about systemic racism is that it's hard to prove. It's easy when someone, like call you the N word or just, blatantly come out and they're blatantly racist. But the thing with systemic racism, when you go into an interview and you can feel it, you can tell that, look, I didn't get this interview because, I'm a black person or I'm an Indian person or a Filipino or whatever. It is very hard to prove that. So that is one of the things. So yeah, as I said, in terms of racism, I've not experienced blatant racism, but systemic racism is definitely, systemic racism is like the boogie monster. Like that you're experiencing it, but you can't prove it. And so that's one of the thing, unfortunate thing with like systemic racism. What else? Like, one of the pro I would say is that um, the quality of life in terms of affording like the basic stuff that you need, like food and stuff like that. I think the pro in North America, because the Caribbean is so expensive. Like, I go to Jamaica, I went to Barbados the other day, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And my gosh, like, I'm like, I don't know how people survive because it is so expensive. And so one of the pros here in North America, whether you're in the US or you're in Canada, the reality is that it is a bit better in terms of that, in terms of affordability for food and and just like even going to a restaurant, you don't have to feel like you're like in a upper class or whatever to go to a nice restaurant. You can just get up and go to a restaurant. So, that is another pro. You can, like growing up in Jamaica, I could only eat chicken on Sunday. Only on Sundays. Like during the week, you have to get some cabbage and corned beef. You have to get some mackerel or whatever. But when you live in North America, you can cook chicken every day if you want. Oxtail and those type of things getting expensive here, but you can have your oxtail sometimes when you feel like you can have your curry goat and all of that. So that is one of the pros in North America is that the affordability where food is concerned, it is more affordable. And yeah, so another thing is that in North America, if you have ambitions of being like an entrepreneur, whether or not like it's a small business or any business that you want to go into, the possibilities are endless in North America because you have more opportunity, you have more people to reach. When you're in, say, like a St. Vincent and you have the population in St. Vincent, it's like 100,000 people, and you have ambition of starting a business, um, how far can you get with 100,000 people? Like when you're in Barbados, how far can you get with 300,000 people? In Jamaica, how far can you get with 3 million people, as opposed to a place like in North America? And the thing with North America too is that Canada and America, they're pretty much connected. So like I know people that do business in, say, like New York, and they have a big market in Toronto. Whether like it's like a black business owner and you want to go into certain business that you're targeting, like the Caribbean community, when you're in North America, the possibility of success is like endless. Like you can become a multi-millionaire when you try to venture in business, as opposed to in the Caribbean. It is not that easy because the amount of people that you're trying to reach is, it's not the same. And the thing also in North America, you can also cross over into other markets because Caribbean is very, very popular in North America. People love jerk chicken. Like no matter if you are Chinese, if you are Filipino, if you are Italian, people love jerk chicken. People love their roti, regardless of where you come from. Like when you go to a Caribbean restaurant, you see people from all walks of life there, and a lot of the products that are Caribbean products, whether just say like you want to get into like black ear care and stuff like that, you have people from Africa that you have access to. You have people from African Americans. You have Afro Canadians that want those products. So that is another pro. Yeah. So if I don't know if I left anything and you're watching this video and you live in North America, whether you live in Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, you live in the United States of America, you live in New York, you live in Atlanta. Atlanta is another amazing place for especially Caribbean people. Atlanta has like a big black population, and in terms of one of the place in America where in particular entrepreneurs, a lot of black entrepreneurs are doing well in Atlanta. So Atlanta is a good place. Yeah, so as I said, like if you're watching this video and you're living in North America and I left anything off, you can add it in the comment section. And yeah, let me know what you think about this video. Like if you're in the Caribbean and you're thinking I want to study in Canada, I want to study in America, and this video was of any value to you, just sound off in the comment section. Let me know. If you have questions, I'm sure that people that are living here will be ready and waiting to answer. So guys, thank you again for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.